Solana Beach woman convicted of murdering her stepfather after finding nude photos of herself on his computer will spend the next 25 years to life behind bars.
Imagine discovering your deepest violation hidden in plain sight by someone you thought you could trust. For 36-year-old Jade Janks, this nightmare became a horrifying reality. While cleaning her stepfather's home, she stumbled upon hundreds of explicit photos of herself on his laptop. Photos she didn't know existed, some dating back to her teenage years. The betrayal was gut-wrenching, shattering her world in an instant.
When I went to clean in his office area, I was kind of wiping things down, and I bumped the mouse on his desktop computer, and it shook the screen awake. And I looked, and there's a picture of female breasts on the screen, and I look, I have a beauty mark kind of on my chest, and I look at those are my breasts.
What followed was an act of revenge that shocked a quiet community in Encinitas, California. Thomas Merriman, a respected conservationist and co-founder of Butterfly Farms, was found dead under a pile of garbage in his driveway on New Year's Day. His stepdaughter, Jade, would soon be arrested and charged with his murder, claiming that she couldn't live with the violation she'd uncovered. This is the harrowing story of betrayal, rage, and ultimate tragedy. A story that raises troubling questions about justice, revenge, and the consequences of unimaginable betrayal. It was December 2020, and Jade Janks was doing what any devoted family member might do, helping clean up while her stepfather, Thomas Merriman, was hospitalized after a fall. But amidst the mundane task of tidying up his Solana Beach home, she made a horrifying discovery. While organizing items near Merriman's computer, Jade accidentally stumbled upon a hidden folder. Curiosity quickly turned to horror as she opened it and found hundreds of explicit photos of herself, images she had no memory of ever consenting to. Some were candid shots taken in the shower, while others appeared to have been covertly captured during her teenage years. To make matters worse, the photos were carefully organized into subfolders, sorted by body part. The betrayal Jade felt at that moment was indescribable. It was the most violating, awful, gut-wrenching feeling ever, she would later testify in court. This wasn't just a breach of trust, it was an invasion of her most private moments by someone who was supposed to protect and care for her. Jade's reaction wasn't immediate rage, but rather a slow-building storm of anger and humiliation. Over the following days, she wrestled with a whirlwind of emotions: shock, disgust, and disbelief. How long had Merriman been keeping these photos, and why had he gone to such lengths to organize them? Jade and Merriman's relationship had always been complicated. Merriman had been married to Jade's mother for several years, but after their divorce, he remained a part of Jade's life. Friends described Merriman as eccentric, but well-liked, a man passionate about his work with Butterfly Farms, the non-profit he co-founded to conserve endangered species. However, behind closed doors, the relationship between Jade and her stepfather was strained. Jade later described Merriman as manipulative and controlling, though there were no prior reports of abuse or misconduct filed against him. The discovery of the photos, however, painted a chilling new picture of their dynamic. The weight of the betrayal became unbearable. Jade confided in a close friend about what she had found, expressing her disgust and disbelief. But instead of reporting the discovery to authorities or seeking help, Jade's thoughts turned darker. Overwhelmed by the violation and her sense of injustice, she began to consider taking matters into her own hands. In text messages later recovered by police, Jade revealed her growing rage. In one chilling exchange, she wrote, "I can't let him get away with this. He has to pay." When Merriman was discharged from the hospital and returned home, Jade was already set on her course of action. She picked him up from the facility, appearing calm and composed, but internally she was seething. As they drove home, Jade's mind raced. How could someone who had portrayed himself as a family man betray her so deeply? The rage she had been harboring for days finally reached a boiling point, setting the stage for a crime that would shock the nation. It was December 31st, 2020, a day meant for celebration and new beginnings. But for Jade Janks, it was the culmination of days of emotional turmoil and mounting anger. That morning, she drove to the hospital to pick up her 64-year-old stepfather, Thomas Merriman, following his discharge after a recent fall. Outwardly, Jade appeared composed, offering Merriman the care and concern he likely expected from a stepdaughter. But beneath the surface, she was a storm of emotions: rage, betrayal, and disgust. The explicit photos she had discovered on his computer replayed in her mind like a haunting film reel. "This drive is going to be hard," Jade texted a friend during the car ride, later revealed in evidence during the trial. She knew that what lay ahead would change her life forever. Upon arriving at Merriman's Solana Beach home, Jade wasted no time putting her plan into action. She helped her stepfather inside, offering him what appeared to be a drink to aid his recovery. What Merriman didn't know was that the drink had been laced with crushed prescription pills, enough to render him unconscious. While Merriman began to show signs of grogginess, Jade's calm demeanor gave way to frantic action. She sent a text message to a friend, one that prosecutors would later describe as chillingly premeditated. "I just dosed the hell out of him. He's waking up. I'm about to club him on the head." This text, presented as evidence during her trial, demonstrated that Jade had meticulously planned every step of the crime. But as Merriman began to regain consciousness, Jade panicked. Her initial plan to incapacitate him without resistance was failing. In desperation, she texted the same friend again. "I can't carry him alone. I need your help." Prosecutors argued that this text was not only an admission of guilt, but also a clear indication of her intent to finish what she had started. Rather than seeking help to de-escalate the situation, Jade doubled down. She attempted to drag Merriman out of the house, but soon realized she couldn't move his body without assistance. Frustrated and panicked, Jade resorted to a brutal final act: suffocation. Jade wrapped Merriman's body in a blanket and dragged it into the driveway, concealing it under a pile of garbage. Her goal, it seemed, was to buy herself time to cover her tracks and devise an explanation for his sudden disappearance. As the hours passed, Jade's actions grew increasingly erratic. Surveillance footage from a nearby property captured her moving items in and out of the house, further incriminating her. Meanwhile, her text message exchanges continued, with her friend refusing to assist her and urging her to stop what she was doing. Jade would later claim that she hadn't intended for Merriman to die. She described her actions as a moment of rage, fueled by the overwhelming sense of betrayal she felt after discovering the photos. However, the evidence told a different story, a story of premeditation, control, and a desire for revenge. Her text messages, the drugs, and the staging of Merriman's body all pointed to a calculated plan to exact her own form of justice. Prosecutors argued that while Jade may have felt violated, her actions were inexcusable. On New Year's Day 2021, Solana Beach police received a call reporting the discovery of Thomas Merriman's body. His lifeless form was found in his driveway, partially concealed under a pile of garbage. The initial impression was that Merriman's death might have been accidental, but investigators quickly noted signs of foul play. Neighbors reported seeing unusual activity around Merriman's home in the hours leading up to the discovery. Surveillance footage from nearby properties captured Jade Janks moving items in and out of the house. What seemed like an ordinary cleanup effort soon raised red flags for investigators. As police pieced together the timeline, Jade's behavior began to draw suspicion. Initially, she played the role of a grieving stepdaughter, expressing shock and sorrow over Merriman's sudden death. However, her composure started to crack under questioning. Investigators uncovered a damning trail of evidence, starting with her text messages. One of the most chilling exchanges was the message Jade sent to a friend during the crime. "I just dosed the hell out of him. He's waking up. I'm about to club him on the head." This text, combined with the friend's refusal to assist her and their eventual cooperation with police, became a cornerstone of the case against her. Forensic evidence further tightened the noose around Jade. Toxicology reports confirmed that Merriman had been given a lethal dose of sedatives before being suffocated. The timeline of events, corroborated by Jade's text messages and surveillance footage, left little doubt about her involvement. During her interrogation, Jade initially denied any wrongdoing, claiming that she had simply been helping her stepfather after his hospital discharge. But as the evidence mounted, her story began to shift. She admitted to discovering the explicit photos and described the emotional anguish they caused, but she maintained that Merriman's death was not premeditated. Under the weight of mounting evidence, Jade eventually confessed to the murder, framing it as an act of rage rather than calculation. She told investigators, "I didn't know what else to do. He betrayed me in the worst way possible." However, prosecutors argued that her actions, dosing Merriman with pills, texting friends about her plans, and staging his body, pointed to a carefully orchestrated crime. The revelation of Merriman's death and Jade's involvement sent shockwaves through the Solana Beach community. Merriman was a well-respected conservationist and co-founder of Butterfly Farms, a non-profit dedicated to preserving endangered species. Friends and colleagues described him as a passionate advocate for the environment and an active community member. To many, the allegations against Jade seemed surreal. How could a family member commit such a brutal act, especially against someone with such a positive public image? The case raised troubling questions about the hidden dynamics of family relationships and the devastating consequences of betrayal. By the time Jade Janks' trial began in 2023, the case had become a national sensation. The courtroom was packed with reporters, legal experts, and members of the Solana Beach community, all eager to witness the legal proceedings. The prosecution wasted no time laying out their case, framing Jade as a calculated and manipulative killer who carefully planned her stepfather's murder out of rage and revenge. The evidence presented was damning. Prosecutors displayed screenshots of Jade's incriminating text messages, including the chilling messages sent to her friend during the crime. "I just dosed the hell out of him. He's waking up. I'm about to club him on the head." These texts, they argued, were clear proof of premeditation. Prosecutors also pointed to surveillance footage showing Jade moving items in and out of Merriman's home, as well as toxicology reports confirming Merriman had been drugged before his death. Jade's defense team, however, painted a different picture. They described her as a woman pushed to the brink by an unimaginable betrayal. Her lawyer argued that discovering the explicit photos of herself on Merriman's computer caused her to suffer a severe emotional breakdown, leading to impulsive actions rather than calculated murder. Imagine finding your privacy so deeply violated by someone you trusted. It wasn't premeditation, it was desperation, her attorney stated in closing arguments. Jade herself took the stand, delivering an emotional testimony about the moment she discovered the photos. She described feeling sick to her stomach and struggling to reconcile the stepfather she thought she knew with the man who had violated her so deeply. Despite her testimony, the prosecution countered by emphasizing the deliberate steps Jade had taken, drugging Merriman, sending incriminating texts, and attempting to stage his death. They argued that her actions went far beyond a momentary lapse in judgment. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a unanimous verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced Jade Janks to 25 years to life in prison, citing the heinous nature of the crime and the trust she had violated in her actions.
Count 1, first-degree murder. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Jade Sasha Janks, guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187, subsection A, a felony, as charged in Count 1 of the amended information, and fix the degree thereof as murder in the first degree.
Jade showed little reaction as the verdict was read, though her defense team later announced plans to appeal the sentence. The sentencing brought a mix of emotions to the Solana Beach community. While many felt justice had been served, others grappled with the tragic nature of the case. Thomas Merriman's legacy as a conservationist and advocate for butterfly preservation was overshadowed by the revelations about his betrayal of Jade's trust.
He was my best friend.
Did he become kind of a butterfly expert?
Oh, he is a butterfly expert.
You say he is.
Yeah,
You still talk about him in the present tense?
yeah.
For Merriman's friends and colleagues, the trial raised difficult questions about how well they truly knew him. Meanwhile, Jade's supporters argued that her actions, while indefensible, were the result of emotional trauma caused by Merriman's actions. The case of Jade Janks and Thomas Merriman is more than a shocking true crime story. It's a window into the complexities of betrayal, trauma, and justice. For many, this story raises uncomfortable but important questions. What drives someone to commit such a violent act? How do we process betrayal by those we trust most? Experts in psychology and criminal behavior weighed in on the case, noting the significant role that emotional trauma played in Jade's actions. Discovering the explicit photos was not just a violation of her privacy, but a complete shattering of her perception of Merriman as a trusted stepfather. However, as prosecutors emphasized during the trial, there were other options available, options that didn't involve taking a life. This is a case of emotional trauma meeting poor decision-making, one psychologist explained. It's a reminder that while emotions can run high in moments of betrayal, there's a line between justice and revenge. The case also reignited debates about privacy violations and their lasting impact. Many argued that Merriman's actions, while deeply unethical and criminal in nature, should have been dealt with through legal channels. Others pointed to the broader societal issue of addressing abuse and the lack of resources available for victims to seek justice without resorting to violence. For the Solana Beach community, the case left an indelible mark. Thomas Merriman, once celebrated for his work with butterfly farms, became a figure mired in controversy. While his contributions to conservation were significant, his betrayal of Jade's trust cast a dark shadow over his legacy. Jade Janks, on the other hand, became a symbol of how quickly rage and despair can lead to irreversible consequences. While some viewed her as a victim pushed to her breaking point, others saw her as a perpetrator who let anger override reason. The story of Jade Janks and Thomas Merriman is a chilling reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating ripple effects of betrayal. It's a tale of two lives, one marred by violation, the other by violence, forever linked by tragedy. For Jade, her decision to take matters into her own hands cost her freedom and left a permanent stain on her family's legacy. For Merriman, his actions led to his ultimate downfall, overshadowing years of positive contributions to his community. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about family, justice, and the fine line between right and wrong. As we reflect on this tragedy, we're reminded of the importance of seeking help, holding others accountable through legal means, and resisting the impulse to let anger dictate our actions. Thank you for joining us as we unraveled this gripping story of betrayal and revenge. If you found this case as compelling as we did, please like, subscribe, and share. Stay safe, and until next time, take care.